Hello Summoners, and welcome back to another Pro Guides video. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we'll be talking about our predictions for the 15 most broken champions on patch 11.24b. One of the most important things in a constantly evolving game like League of Legends is to be able to adapt with the meta, and that's why we're here for you. If you want to know what's going to be OP before the patch hits, then you'll be ready to hit the ground running without having to test and see if one buff or nerf really made that much of a difference. And if you don't really know how to play any of these OP picks, or you're just a little bit rusty, this will give you a few days to brush up on them in some normals or on a smurf. Before we get started, I just want to say that this list is not in any particular order. It's just a list of the champions that we think are going to be some of the strongest, most influential picks on this patch. We'll start things out with Jhin. The current meta for ADC has overwhelmingly been dominated by 5 picks. You'll rarely see a game that doesn't have Vayne, Jinx, Jhin, Ezreal, or Caitlyn. But of all of those picks, Vayne has been a head above the rest. While the nerfs aren't absolutely massive, they should bring her down just a little bit, specifically lowering her ability to force an all-in at level 6 in an otherwise tough lane. As a result of her moving down just a bit in power, Jhin will naturally be a bit closer to taking the throne as the most consistent ADC. His laning phase is insanely strong, and his one weakness, tanks, aren't really too popular in the meta at the moment, so you'll be able to dominate the lane and never have to worry about reaching a point where you can't break the enemy front line. Whether you're trying to learn to abuse the broken champions on this list or how to deal with them when you end up on the wrong side of the matchup, if you really want to speed up the process, you should check out ProGuides.com. We have courses from all your favorite streamers and pros like CoreJJ, Afremu, and Xmithy to really help you understand how to play your role. And if you want a more personalized experience, well, we have coaches available 24/7, ready to help you become the best of the best. Our coaches are top-tier players that have spent years climbing the solo queue ladder to get where they are now, and they're ready to share everything that they've learned with you. So stop spinning the wheels on your own and get on the fast track to higher elo today. Now let's get back on topic, shall we? Our second pick is another marksman, but instead of the bot lane, we're looking towards the mid lane with Akshan. When Akshan first came out, his win rate was abysmal. He really didn't look like he was remotely viable, but after a bit of love from the balance team and once people realized the right way to build and play him, things really shaped up and he's tearing it up ever since. He allows you to bully pretty much any opponent that you lane up against, and you can use your waiting lane to help your jungler with skirmishes over Scuttle Crab or just be the second ganker for your team, visiting side lanes anytime the enemy team overextends. Our next pick is Shen. While we don't talk about him in the same spotlight as Camille, since he doesn't have a Q that does 700 true damage every few seconds, he's kind of just as guilty of being too strong for too long. I don't remember the last time he wasn't hovering between a 52 or a 53% win rate. The main reason for that success is that Shen isn't just a CC bot like other tanks. He's a duelist, and more than anything, he kind of plays like the bruisers that generally dominate that lane. He's able to beat these bruisers by easily itemizing into both tanky and offensive items like Thornmail and Titanic Hydra. This allows him to beat them down while taking no damage back and makes him an insanely strong split pushing threat in the mid to later stages of the game. Even Camille and Fiora can struggle to take you on in 1v1s if you're ahead enough. Corgi has been on our radar in the last few patches, with his win rate competing with the most meta champs, but still he has remained largely unpopular. Most people just prefer champions with a little bit more proactivity in their kits, and when they do want scaling, the go-to picks lately have been Victor and Kassadin. But with this new build that we've been seeing on Corgi, you may want to reconsider your options. We'll cover the build in full in a later meta video, but the summary is that you go for a much more AP heavy build as opposed to building standard marksman items. The result is both massive burst damage and really good poke with his rockets. Oh, and he also works super well in both the mid and bot lane, so feel free to play him in whichever you prefer. Qiyana has generally been one of those champions that always did super well in higher elos, but really struggled to perform outside of that level. This is due to her requiring the player to know both when and how to effectively roam, and to have mechanics to combo with her in the right way. But since she's been so popular for so long now, people have gotten plenty of practice in, and even in the mid-elo ranges, she's doing pretty well. With this patch bringing nerfs to the other top tier picks in the mid lane, she may actually be the absolute best champion in the role for now. So if you aren't into her yet, you'll really want to head into the practice tool and start working on your combos. Or better yet, hit up one of our coaches at ProGuides.com if you really want to get good with her. When you think of the most broken champions, you probably generally think of champions that one-shot you or champions that can 1v9 with ridiculously overloaded kits. But sometimes it's just on the other end of the spectrum. A support like Soraka can really keep her team alive through ridiculous amounts of healing, and it's pretty broken too. A lot of people think countering Soraka is as simple as building grievous wounds. Maybe in the laning phase that works, but outside of lane, Soraka's healing spikes hard, as you pick up healing power and CDR. A 40% or even 60% cut to healing may sound like a lot, but Soraka can easily double her ADC's HP via spamming her heal. Viego has been a pretty popular pick ever since his release, but he has pretty much never shown a crazy high win rate in the jungle. But that isn't because he's just some for fun pick. The reason his win rate isn't higher is because he comes with basically the highest skill ceiling in the game. Making the most of Viego means knowing how to use each enemy that you take over with your passive, and which order to do so in team fights. Maybe some games you'll pop off because you're comfy with every single champion on the enemy team, but in some other games you're completely clueless on how to play Aurelia or Riven if you pick up their souls instead. If you can play every other champion in the game, congrats. You should be able to 1v9 the vast majority of games with this pick. Speaking of 1v9 hard carries, our next pick is Jinx. 1v9 may be a bit of an exaggeration. Jinx being an immobile ADC means that she does need a little bit of a frontline or at least a support that can peel to help her out in team fights. But her lack of self-sufficiency is more than made up for by her insane damage output. Of the big popular 5 ADCs that we talked about earlier, Jinx is with Jhin and Vayne in the definitive top 3 champions in the class. If you prefer a champion that mostly wants to farm up early and then roll the team fights later, then she's the one that you should be going for. Yasuo makes this list this time around, but we won't be looking at him as a mid laner. Mid lane Yasuo definitely isn't bad, but it also isn't the greatest either. Matchups can be either really volatile, and if the enemy jungler gets involved, he can quickly be on the wrong side of the snowball. But in the bot lane, Yasuo is king. He pairs really well with both kill lane supports and enchanters, so you never really have to worry about compatibility issues. Like me when I use Hinge or Tinder. When Wall leaves ADCs without much counterplay when you go for an all-in, and post 6, you'll be looking for those a lot. Once you reach your mythic, the lane becomes pretty much unplayable. You can force hard anytime a new minion wave comes in, using it to dash into your opponents. As a result, you'll find most enemy bot lanes have to sit way back, entirely conceding the lane. While Nunu may not be the most popular pick, there's no arguing that he is definitely one of, if not the strongest jungler in the game. He just does way too much, and he does it all way too easily. His clear isn't craziest in terms of speed, but he does get through his jungle with full HP thanks to his Q's healing. While he doesn't have the best dueling early, you just really don't want to be fighting anybody 1v1 anyway. If you see your opponent going for a scuttle, your smite plus Q combo allows you to easily just take it away. Then there's his ganks. Nunu has some of the most punishing ganks in the game. It's pretty much impossible to escape once you get caught out, even with flash up. So if the enemy has aggressive laners that keep overextending, just run it down their lane on repeat with W for an easy win. While there's definitely a group of people out there that make fun of people that play easy champions like Nunu and Qiyana, I don't really see the issue. You should be playing ranked to win games, not to look fancy. Otherwise, there's probably a good reason that your hearts suck. And that brings us to today's question of the day. What are some of the easiest champions to climb with? We want to know champs that you think are both strong and simple to get the most out of. Let us know your answers in the comments down below. The next champion that we have for you is Garen. Whether it's mid or top lane, Garen is just an insanely oppressive pick that can bully out any opponent that he's up against. You may think that a mage would surely be a safe pick into him, but you'd be wrong. Doran's shield and second wind easily give enough sustain for Garen to get through any early game poke, and post 6 he can actually go for an all-in, since he can very likely 100-0 a squishy with a single combo. Once you have an early lead with Garen, run with it, force skirmishes, and brute force your way to a win. Try as it may, Riot just can't get rid of Maokai's support. They initially tried to nerf his saplings but buffed the healing on his passive to make him better as a top laner, but then people just resorted to go full tank Maokai support. Riot tried to nerf this as well, but to no avail. The addition of Even Shroud means that there's finally a mythic for Maokai that is both tanky and gives damage, making him even more deadly. He's by far the most aggressive support in the game right now, so if you prefer tanky engaged supports over enchanters, you'll definitely want to pick him up. Remember, just because a champion is being nerfed, it doesn't mean that they're suddenly bad. Lux will still be an insanely strong pick. Given that a full combo generally overkills a squishy target by several hundred HP, I don't think 20 damage off of Q is gonna hurt her too bad. The extra 2 seconds on Q would have been a lot more impactful on E, since that's the ability that you max and spam in lane. The only thing I see this nerf affecting is Lux support, and while that is her more popular role, I think it's her weaker one, by a lot. Lux mid is going to remain insanely strong until they make her laning phase a little bit more punishable. And on that note, we'll throw Victor on this list as well. Victor has been one of the most broken abusers of First Strike since its release, and while this patch does bring a nerf to the Keystone, it's a relatively small one, knocking the bonus damage from 10% to 9%. While that does mean just a little bit less money in your pockets, let's just remember that Victor was doing super well before they even introduced his rune anyway. They could gut it and he'd still go back to Electrocute or Airy as his main keystone. Finishing up our list, we have Vi. Vi has typically always been a champion that, even when strong, isn't too popular. Her play rate just never seems to make it past 2 or 3%, but lately she spiked a lot, reaching nearly 8%. Maybe this has to do with how much everyone is going crazy over Arcane. I mean, most of the champions on this list are actually from Arcane, so I don't think it's a coincidence. Whatever the reason, she's an insanely strong pick, and if your team doesn't completely end in the early game, you can very quickly take over the game once you have your ultimate to guarantee some kills. In previous seasons, Vi's one big weak point was her ultimate's long cooldown. Even when massively fed, once it was down, you couldn't really do much for a while. But with this season bringing us Axiom Mark, that weakness is taken care of, so there's a lot less downtime for you to worry about. That wraps up things for our predictions for the 15 most broken champions on patch 11.24b. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you sub so you never miss out on our content like this. Remember to let us know what champions are both strong and easy to play down in the comments below. And one last thing, don't forget to check out our Discord in the description as well, where you can go ahead and discuss the league further or just hang out and be a part of the community. Can't wait to see you guys back in the next video, but until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.